Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a guide for this year's White Day / Chaldea Boys event. The story of Chaldea Heavy Industries. First of all, you should get your obligatory free craft essence ticket, and since these provide bonuses in the event itself, you should use it right away. While you could take a lower rarity CE, this is generally a bad idea. That said, in a vacuum, Brilliant Spring Sunshine isn't too shabby. Debuff immunity CEs are a little on the rare side. There are some other options that are also limited. What's even more valuable than a 4-star debuff immunity CE is a defense ignore CE. That would be a 3 in the black, which is a package of defense ignore, quick, and NP damage. Once again, in a vacuum, it's the best of this year's crop. Defense ignore is a really annoying effect to get onto your servants, and unless you're willing to fit Sherlock onto your team, a CE will get the job done in a pinch. That said, if we take this out of that vacuum, there are some problems. Firstly, we recently had a free defense ignore CE in the form of Dancing on Lotus Blossoms from the Mount Liang event, but that one has a Buster crit skew. Different enough, right? Fair. But the second issue is last year's best Chaldea Boys CE, Watergun Battle. That one is a quick Buster hybrid, which is generally less desirable than 3 in the black's quick / NP damage combo, but my point is that this is a marginal improvement. Bit of a shame, really. And it's not like the other 5-star CE inspires confidence. That would be Roam Eternal, which provides a 2-hit invuln with some small damage reduction. Compare this to Volume in Ardregerum, which has been in the general pool since 2018. That gives 3 stacks of invulnerability, and you can get it at any time. So yeah, 3 in the black is technically the best option, so pick it if you're struggling to decide. As a way to encourage people to roll for the alternatives, they started putting voice acting in these last year, and this new set continues that experiment. I for one have a mighty need to hear Moriarty bullying himself, so I might pop in and spin for one of those. As for actual event progression, it's just the point ladder. The gacha CEs give point bonuses relative to their rarity, which is another reason to take 3 in the black. The points gate event story progression along with the usual time gates. The latter has what you'd normally expect minus command codes, none of those this time around. It's worth noting all male servants have a bond bonus, so slap some of those onto your teams to get that incremental value. Some specific servants also get an attack bonus, but none of those seem terribly appetizing. Now let's take a look at the 90++ node. This one is a huge pain in the ass unless you know a few tricks. It's a 1-1-3 mix of Berserkers and Sabers. The boss wave has a 400k Jason, which is honestly quite lenient for one of these nodes. But what they do instead of jacking up the boss is that they put a huge fucking Heracles Nobu in wave 1. This bastard has 600k health, and is the first thing you see in this fight. It's a silver enemy, so insta-kill is out of the question. Or so you would think. It has a death rate of 50%, which is high, but not insurmountable. A small number of servants can actually hit 100% insta-kill against this category. I'm gonna set aside ones that need impractically high overcharge amounts, like Castronita Chris and Kiara. This leaves 4 options that I could identify. Assassin Li Shuen is probably the worst of them, since he has no batteries or staying power, but he can't technically meet the insta-kill check. Assassin Shiki can do it purely with her own kit, but provides very little in terms of party utility or damage that she can leverage against the remaining enemies. The ideal option here is Ashia Doman, who can meet the check with help from the Tsukihime Mystic Code. It's the Soya High School uniform from last anniversary, the one where Guriko is about to show you her Sachin impression. The benefit of Doman specifically is that he can hit 100% charge unassisted, as long as you have his append skill. Between this and his chaotic and evil buffs, he can deal with wave 1 while leaving you a lot of wiggle room to build for the subsequent waves. Failing that, you can do what I did and use Summer Erise. She can also meet the insta-kill check with the Soya uniform, though you'll have to get more creative with the rest of your team. If you have none of these options, then you'll have to kill Zerk Nobu the old-fashioned way. The trait list is not promising, and the best thing I could come up with is using Nemo to exploit its super large status. It's pretty tough, though as a Berserker you technically do have free reign to throw your strongest single target attacker at it, so good luck with that. Here's a fun little diversion. They're letting you take photos of your servants in the My Room menu, if you have a single servant up. You can also double up on servants if you want to set up a sneaky rendezvous, but this locks you out of photos. Now then, let's deal with the challenge quest. This one pits you against Okuni, Kojiro, and Hector in the front line, with Takasuki in the back. Takasuki and Kojiro have 3 health bars while the others have 2. Now there is a slow single target and high risk AoE method. Starting with the latter, you nuke down the enemies, which will force Takasuki to be alone on the field by the end of turn 3. The big challenge with this method is that Okuni has an on-death buff. This will augment Takasuki with an on-death effect that instantly kills anyone with the preferential treatment effect. Throughout the fight, you'll get random health regeneration buffs, and one of these can convert into preferential treatment, which by itself reduces your meter in stars by a small amount. This creates problems for the slow strategy, but we'll get back to that. The point is that you accumulate stacks of preferential treatment the longer this fight goes on. Each of these is a death sentence. On Takasugi's final break, he becomes invulnerable for a single turn, gets a full meter, and gives himself 3 stacks of guts. He can use his third skill on top of this, by the way, which also gives him a guts. So you may have to kill him up to 5 times, each of which triggers the insta-kill. And yes, that includes the final hit you deal to end the battle. Now I don't remember if you can lose the fight because of this, but I certainly wouldn't be eager to find out. The big issue with the AoE fast kill is that your buffs are going to last for 3 turns, leaving you to face Takasugi during your cooldown period. That's far from ideal, and the longer the fight takes, the more chances he has to put preferential treatment on a servant that you can't afford to lose. So it's pretty risky. I went for this method, and my hacky solution was to blaze through the easy turns with Chen Gong before ending on a Bond Heracles. It didn't go quite to plan, with Castoria surviving far longer than she should have, but it did let me win the battle of attrition. You can also just run a second attacker/buffer package in your backline to bounce back if you lose key pieces. The slow clear by contrast is indeed slow, but its main advantage is that you don't have to take out Okuni. You can leave her right there, and Takasugi loses a lot of his threat without her death effect. That said, you will have to contend with more, fight-specific mechanics. Your first problem is that Kojiro taunts himself for 3 turns, and every time he's hit during that period, he'll give a 3-turn defense buff to his other teammates, including Takasugi. This can make them quite annoying to finish off. On first break, he gets a 100k bonus health and increased crit chance, and on final break, Kojiro gets crit damage and some on-hit effect. I have no idea what it does, since it never factored into my runs. Hector will attempt to stun someone at the start of every other turn. I'm not sure if this is the same as his skill, which has an 80% chance to work, but regardless, running debuff immunity, cleanses, or the Tamamo mirror command code is something I'd recommend. On break, Hector gets a bunch of debuff resistance and immunity effects, and also increases the rate at which the bad regeneration effect is distributed. Okuni has this weird mechanic where she buffs the enemies based on whether they have buffs, debuffs, or both, in which case she apparently acts randomly. On break, she heals all of your enemies for half of their health, and then gives them 2 ticks of charge. Her death effect is obviously a run ender for slow teams, so don't carelessly splash damage onto her. On entry, Takasugi gives attack and crit buffs to all surviving enemies. This combined with Kojiro's leftovers and Okuni's on-field effect can turn into some hard hits coming your way. He can also distribute the bad regen every other turn, so watch out for that. On first break, Takasugi charms everyone with preferential treatment and gives his own team 3 stacks of Invuln Pierce. I've gone over most of his second break effects, but he will full charge and give a single turn of Invuln to any of your servants with preferential treatment. The Invuln won't matter if his Pierce effect is still active, but the full charge can let you mount a counterattack. You're kind of forced into fighting Kojiro at the start, but you actually have a fair bit of leeway in terms of how you handle the rest. I'd recommend taking out Kojiro and then grinding out Takasugi if you can handle Hector's stun spam, otherwise deal with him second to get that out of the way. The Immortal team works quite well for this slow clear, as long as you're running the Himiko variant. Suffice it to say, if Okuni eats too many roadless Camelots, you're cooked. So you're stuck with Himiko as your overcharger. Either that or run a single target attacker for a pseudo-Immortal team. Generally, Castoria is going to save you a lot of headaches since she can bypass the Invuln Pierce gimmick. That said, there is potentially one big problem with the Immortal team. Remember how the bad regen takes away charge? Well, if your Immortal team components are NP1, that means you're capped at 100% charge. If you lose charge, you won't be able to do your chain without committing some batteries. That can put you in a very bad spot, especially because Takasugi's an archer operating on a 3-tick cycle for his Noble Phantasm. Bit of a nasty fight, isn't it? Well, good luck. You're gonna need it. Thanks for watching, lads. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and come on to my twitch.tv/Finotaisen where I stream every weekend. Takasugi rolls are going to be this Sunday, so you won't want to miss it. I've also brought back the Fino and Friends channel where I post non-FGO stream highlights. So if you don't have time to see the long cuts, you can get your fill of the action there. The video currently on screen will take you there. I'll see you around.